Oh, hello, people. How are you?
Greetings from the world of the wild Middle East. I hope you're all doing well, whatever time it is, wherever you are. And that, yeah, you're doing good as well. Just doing well. Both those things are important, in my opinion. So, what's happening here in the wild Middle East? Well, we've got a number of different, how shall I put it, situations that are very much um, updating in real time. I don't know if you've heard what has happened to the people stuck in the tunnels near the IDF yellow line, actually inside of the IDF yellow line. So technically, they are inside the part of Gaza that they're not supposed to be in. But if you haven't heard about that, it's been now multiple days, and there have been all kinds of rumors as to what would happen to those Hamas terrorists inside of Israeli controlled Gaza. The fact is, we don't have a final outcome yet because the people managing that issue have not put a final literal deadline, so to speak, in place, which would basically necessitate a resolution to this matter in a very conclusive way. Right? So at the moment, we have people who are literally stuck in a tunnel, who are actual Hamas terrorists, every last one of them. There are no hostages there with them. And been offered surrender, exchange for the simple act of doing what they're already supposed to do, which is to hand over all of the remaining bodies, but in one in particular, that of Hadar Golden, whose body has been held in Gaza since 2014, when he was killed and taken to Gaza as a dead hostage. And they never released him, they never returned him under any of the previous wars that Israel and Gaza, Israel and Hamas has had since 2014, and there have been a few, in case you're not familiar. And they're still holding on to his body because they're sick and gruesome people. So the question is then, well, what does Israel realistically expect to get in return of these, in return for releasing the hostages, if it is to do so, if it's to release them alive? And also, should Israel even release them and let them walk scot-free, considering all the terrible things these people are accused of having done?
My personal take on all that
is that, generally speaking, no, you should not allow hostages to walk free. I mean, not hostages, terrorists to walk free because they've taken hostages, or they've planned to, or they've attacked civilians, or they plan to, or in this case, they are literally enemy combatants
hiding in a tunnel.
right within. It's a very simple formula. This is how it has been in the history of war forever and a Wednesday. Now, they may not want to surrender, but the difference is if they surrender to Israel, they're not going to be killed, right? They're not going to be tortured and butchered to death and having all these other horrible things happen to them
Like we know they do to the people that they capture. If you haven't seen it yet, you should really, really, really
take a good hard look at the interview done here in Israel by Channel 12 with Rom Brodslavsky. Rom is an Israeli who was taken hostage on October 7th. and was held in horrific conditions and was abused and tortured and starved and had horrible things happen to him, you should really go and see for yourself what he had to say about how he was mistreated by the savage people that helped him. And yes, I call them savage people. And yes, I'll even go so far as to call them savages, just like the colonial British would have back in the day when dealing with savages. Why? Well, because he was literally treated worse than a person would treat an animal. And when I say treat, I mean mistreat an animal. He was abused in horrific ways that you would not even do to an animal, even if you were a person who doesn't like animals. Go and hear his interview. So now the question is, really the bigger question, right, is this so-called ceasefire deal actually yielding any positive fruit? Or is it all poison fruit? Or is there no fruit at all? Is this just devastation waiting to happen? Right? And the answer may be surprising to you. I don't know. Maybe not. But the answer is very clearly that so far there is direct positive fruit that has been born, in the sense of all of the living hostages are back in Israel, and most of the dead ones are as well, but not all of them are. And that means we are not yet even at the end of stage one of this deal. By the way, literally the very first phase of this deal is to de-radicalize Gaza. Well, that's actually the last thing that's going to take place, because the de-radicalization process is a very long process. So the entire plan from start to finish is quite literally backwards in many respects. But that's the first and obvious big glaring one. Before it even said release hostages, it says de-radicalize Gaza. I'm sorry, but what? You think the people who drafted that plan thought that de-radicalize would be step number one? Yeah, no, that may be the most important thing for the long-term peace, but that's not step number one. That's literally the last thing that's going to happen, and it's only going to happen if and when and after that Hamas is completely removed from power, right? In Gaza, they cannot be an active force of power there anymore. The game is over for them, and they know that, and that's why they're doing what they're doing, and they're garnering up all the support that they can in order to remain relevant after the fact when they are out of power, officially as Hamas. And they are going to try to stay in power as other groups. They'll have different names, but they'll all be the same thing. And that's why exactly Qatar and Turkey are doing everything they can to meddle every single day in the affairs of this deal. And that's why it's very concerning that regardless of his words, his actions speak louder than his words. And I'm talking about President Trump. And yeah, President Trump has contributed a lot to the situation having a potential to have an end to this war. But it's not over yet. There's a long way to go. We have not yet come anywhere near to the end of step 2, or to the beginning of step 2, because we're still in step 1. Israel is still waiting for the remains of more than a half a dozen hostages, and Hamas knows exactly where they are, and the reason they're dragging their feet is precisely to do what I told you they would be doing from the moment that this draft was first proposed, of this deal, and way before it was even agreed upon by anybody or signed by anybody or not. A dead deal from the start. In that the parties, right, to the deal before they ever signed it, never said any timetables other than
which turned out to be
a joke. They've done that according to the timeline. They never did release the dead hostages within the 3-day timeline, or the 2 days after that, or the 2 days after that. And for all the 48-hour deadline, said, and I told you, Hamas used those as a joke. But unless Israel actually strikes hard when those 48 hours are up, Hamas will view those as a joke, and they will not respect these deadlines, and they will not release people. They will do everything in their power to remain in power. That's precisely what they've done. And they're going to continue to do that for as long as possible. Right? They're going to try to find every conceivable way of completely staying in power. Like 100%. Right? They're not looking to actually give it up. Right? Like if they have their druthers, they're just going to keep doing what they're doing, and damn the consequences, so to speak. They don't really care if they get attacked more. Just like they don't really care if 200 of their Hamas terrorists in a tunnel on the Israeli side of the Gaza Strip get annihilated or not. They don't care. They actually don't care. And the reason they don't care is because they are ideologically driven
to do damage.
That's all they care about. From the terror side of the organization, not the terrorist side of the organization. From the political side of the organization, they also care to do damage because they are also ideologically driven. But more than that, they are money driven, which is exactly why they're doing everything they can to stay in the good graces of Qatar and Iran, who continue to be their sponsors, who continue to give them all the aid in the world that they want, despite Qatar literally signing this agreement themselves. Iran didn't sign it, okay, but that's Iran. So if Qatar had stopped giving them aid, and if the EU would stop giving them the Hamas aid, that would be two of the major sources of their funding. Now, of course, they do have other sources of funding that will frankly keep them in business in perpetuity unless something is done about it. And one of those things is their illegal trades, right? Much like Hezbollah, they do illegal businesses outside of the Gaza area and the West Bank, right? Around the world, they do illegal business. They trade illegally in things. They conduct illegal business. They conduct charitable fundraising, which is illegal for a proscribed terrorist organization to do. And yet they do it with impunity, right? No measure of consequence is beset upon them at all. Hello there. Hello, Russia. Hello, whoever. I wonder why you Americans have never mentioned Congo and Nigeria. Bro,